up, y'all? I'm in Houston, Texas right now at the Cisco getting unloaded at the moment. It's taking forever, but it's all good. Let me just take the time to talk about this topic. I'm gonna start with the company drivers. I do believe coming into trucking, the company driver is the way to go right now. You know, because you can stay there, you can make a good living, you have benefits, you can get good home time, you can do some overtime too, push the limits, you can do regional and a little OTR, and you don't have as much responsibility. You know, so the money's good, the benefits is good. There'll always be work for you to do. You know, so that's a good thing. You know, some of the cons of the company drive, I must be very honest with you about, is that they're very micromanagement on everything. Like, you know, why'd you hit the brake so hard? Why are you following so close? You know, and I understand these are safety procedures, and you know that a lot of companies, you know, are very safe for their companies for that reason. I get it, and that part is a good thing. However, I do think there's a balance of not being so excessive to a point where the driver feels uncomfortable, and cameras in the dashboard and people watching you as you're talking, and or if you decide to talk, you know, or whether the cameras are on in the event or not. I'm hearing different things with Swift, and different companies are very extra with the cameras on the dash, so that could be a con for a lot of people. Also, you know, if you hit the brake too hard, you know, there's been situations where you have to hit the brake. What the hell? You gotta save your life, if I save someone else's. That's what goes on. You have to hit the brake. So it's a big game as far as insurance, because these companies are very scared of accidents and things happen, which I can understand. Me having a company, I can relate to that. However, I don't think that a driver should be so stressed to a point where he's constantly having somebody over his shoulder talking to him every time, or just a feeling of uncomfortability. Like I think it causes more nervousness to the driver. My time at Schneider, I learned a lot. I'll never talk bad about Schneider. The only thing I can say bad about Schneider is that they are very micromanaged, very serious. You have to be on point. And that's another part about trucking. You have to have a level of responsibility. You have to know good time management. You got to know when and how to use the bathroom. Where you're going to park. You know, all these things kind of matter as a company driver that kind of go into the owner operator part of it later on, which is a stepping stone toward the, you know, the bigger part of owner operator, what I'm going to get into later. So yes, lots of pros. I think it's a good thing to start and get into it. You can see the country, you can meet a lot of people. There's a lot of benefits to it. You make a lot of connections. I think that's the one thing that's really slept on trucking, because when you're out here, even as a company driver, you're meeting people, and you can make good connections, you know, throughout the country, or depending how you run, or in a region, or even a local level, you can make lots of connections, which is very good. So I really like that part of it. Also, it's stress relieving too. You know, if you have a lot on your mind and you need to just get away from it all, trucking will allow you to do that. I'm just not speaking from my own experiences, but just, you know, other people I spoke to, and it really helps in a lot of sense, because you get to see the country and it gives you a very relaxed feeling. And it's also a sense of freedom. Even as a company driver, you have a sense where you can do, you know, you go anywhere, do anything, and sometimes, depending on your, you know, the person, like your boss or whoever the person in charge of the company is, they'll let you pick where you want to go sometimes. So I've seen that with some company drivers where they can say, hey man, I want to go so-and-so. And you let them know. Very, very positive in that sense. But some of the high paying company driver jobs will be more micromanaged with the cell phone, with following too close, with hitting the brake too hard, obviously speeding. Can't do that because they have governors, you know, limited speed limiters in them that don't allow you to go but so fast. So, and I'm not promoting at all not being safe, right? But there is a difference, understand this, where you have to be safe, but you also have to be effective as well. So obviously you can't speed. Obviously you have to understand that you can't hit the brakes hard, because that will cause a, you know, that will alert them on your ELD. A lot of these company driver trucks are set up through a computer system where they're watching you. constantly, or monitoring your driving, stuff like that. Lots of pros, but also lots of cons. But I still think it's a very good stepping tool towards the bigger picture, right? If you have a very comfortable mindset where you're okay with being micromanaged and being told what to do all the time, and being on a schedule where they run you where they want you to go, in most cases, right? So that can be very good for that kind of person that doesn't have that much drive as far as going past that. Because no offense, and I don't mean to say anything bad towards anybody else, even in other careers, some people are used to being told what to do. They're used to being a follower. They're used to being told. They need direction. They need someone saying, do this, and do this. And I'm not knocking those people. But if you have a bigger goal in mind, like myself, and you have dreams like myself, and you have things that you have more leadership qualities. You're not the follower. You're not, that type of person. Then you probably want more, which will the company driver will allow you to go into owner operating, which will then allow you to go into fleet ownership and move on a higher level and a higher scale. So there's that. It really comes down to the individual and what kind of person you are. Speaking about experience with myself, I'm outgoing. I mean, people that know me, I have leadership qualities. I don't like to settle for less. I don't like to be told what to do like that. I can follow direction, I can follow orders, but I also will have a goal at the end of the day. You come in as a company driver, within a year or two, if you have everything set up, you can go and get your own truck and go into your own business. You really can grow in trucking so many ways. But I've also seen a lot of company drivers who say, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? They'll say, oh, nice truck. And they'll talk about my truck, and they'll ask me, yo, man, when'd you get your truck? And I'll explain to them. And they'll say, yeah. And I say, well, you work for that company? And they'll say, yes, I do. I've been with them for 30 years. And I say, wow, you've been driving for Tyson for 30 years. I say, you never thought about going into business yourself? Like, no, it's very easy for me. I'm comfortable and stuff like that. And I just said, that's good for you. And I respect that. So I can't really knock an individual that doesn't have the mindset to do more. And that's the beauty about the company driver, because you don't have to go into the headache and the frustrations that owner-operator can be. And trust me being out here, owner-operator now, close to 2 years or so, there's a lot of frustrating moments. If you are not mentally strong, it's really not for you. So I agree with the company driver, my mentality, not going there into the owner-operator level because of responsibility. Some people can't handle the responsibility of the truck, the company, and their life at home, or their lifestyle in general. So I totally can relate, and I respect that, right? But in life, you have to always challenge yourself. I'm a firm believer that, you have to always kind of look for uncomfortability for success. I don't believe that you can be successful being comfortable. I think the more comfortable you are, the more stagnant you are, and just my mindset is different towards that. So, company driver, like I said, I can go on and on about it. I think it's a great stepping tool to owner operating. I also think it's a great stepping stool for somebody that wants to make six figures, right? You'll be starting in say, right company jobs from 85,000, you can make all the way up to 120 or 140, depending on where you run, on how you run, as a company driver. And now this is with benefits. So already, just because you have the CDL, if you do an average, and you're a company driver, you're looking at 100K with the right company. You just have to, the majority of companies will start you between 80 and 100K, depending on your endorsements, right? If you have any. So, very positive, because some people don't get that in regular 9-to-5 jobs, It's actually a step ahead. I don't know, I didn't look up where in trucking where it is, but in the industry, we're still higher than most regular jobs, it's starting out because of the license. So a lot of pros with that. And you can grow into a company, and the growth of it, I think, is probably one of the best things in any field, because the possibilities are really endless where you can go once you get the license. So yes, I think company driving is good right now. I think it's a good time to come in. Especially what's going on with the economy right now. The economy is kind of messed up, and there's a lot going on. But with the company driver, you're gonna be safe. Most companies have their dedicated accounts, so all you gotta do is really just drive their truck, take their stuff where they gotta go, drop it off, and get paid. So it's a good time for company driving. Now, owner operator. Oh, I took off my glasses for this one. The owner operator. Right now, I will say, depending on the money you have, or what you have saved up, or what you are sitting on, it's not a good time to come in right now. I'm being very honest with you. If you have a dedicated account, or you know somebody where you can have a dedicated account, and you have access to getting a truck, or a trailer, or vice versa, or even if you don't have a trailer, you really need some kind of dedicated account, and to really stay tough out here, because its rates are really not good right now. If you want to become an owner operator today, it's still worth it. However, you got to understand all the things that go on with it. There's two types of owner operators. There's the ones that lease from a company, meaning lease their truck from a company and pay a weekly bill. But the problem I have with that is a lot of scams that go on with that. I feel like some companies take advantage of drivers with that. They give you an opportunity, yes, not saying they're all bad, but the majority of them are, where you lease the truck from under them, and you run under them, you run under their authority, and you run under their dispatch. Which there has been some success, but it usually ends up not being that good in the long run. I've seen some people that have done good with that, but I personally wouldn't do that. Only because there's so many fees and things that they have their hands on, that when you get into the numbers, you realize how much you're really paying and what you're really getting. So you would lease a truck under the company, and you would basically have like a weekly payment on top of all your other expenses that you would have. So it can really add up very quickly. And then they still micromanage in some aspects of why you hit the brake so hard. I've heard, certain things of, talking about your engine. So it's like you own it, but since it's like you're leasing it, so you don't really own it. But it's your truck. You're staying in the truck. You have the truck all the time. It's yours. That part true. However, it's not really your truck. So that's the thing where I don't like that form of owner operating, because it's lease to own. The other form of owner operator is when you get your own authority, meaning like you got the truck and the trailer, or you just got the truck, and you got your own authority, your own LLC, you're legit. You have your own thing, your own company, your name, your brand, everything. Now, even though I promote that, and I think that's the way to go, that's just my personal feeling on trucking and what it should be about. So that's my opinion. I'm very biased with that, however. But the cons of it, I'll be honest with you, you have to know your numbers. You have to know your gas, your fuel. Fuel can really kill you in some aspects. Knowing where you're going, your ELD, timing, the government, and also knowing your finances at home and knowing everything in general. You have a lot of responsibility when it comes to having your own authority. But I think it's good for some people that are responsible and have a willingness to work and a willingness to have a drive to them. I still prefer it more than anything else. The money's better, right? It is definitely hands down better. But that money that's better is a gross better, right? Doesn't really mean the net is better. The net kind of comes down to you and how you take care of all these integral parts, meaning your finances, your bills, your fixed costs, your responsibility, your fuel, insurance, home, all types of stuff like that. So I like the freedom of it. I like the advantage, the idea that you can, be your own boss. It's your name, your company, your everything, and you have the potential to grow. It's sky's the limit, and the only one that can really stop you is yourself. You're really your own biggest competition out here when you have your own authority, because everyone else is gonna, they'll work with you. The first 6 months will be hard, right? Certain companies won't work with you, but then once your authority matures and you get to a year or maybe 2 years, it'll get even better. The next thing is you want to try to find dedicated freight. You want to get dedicated account. I'm fortunate enough to have worked with some companies where it's pretty much dedicated, because I have such a good relationship with some companies. So I'm fortunate in that sense. But I went through my hard times. I had to go through talking, meeting, consulting with people on trying to get them to trust me with certain loads and get a certain respect out there. And fortunately, I have that now. So really, it comes down to the work and how hard you're gonna go and how far you're gonna go with it. But the return is priceless. It's nothing better. I think everyone that gets into trucking should have an overall goal to get there and get more trucks and really get as much done as you can possible. So, in conclusion, I'll say this: it's for the right individual. Right now, unless you really, in this day and age, at this particular time, what's going on with the economy and the government and everything else, that's a whole nother topic I'll get into, but a whole nother video I can talk about. But it's not really a good time if you don't have all your finances, at home and everywhere else good, because it can really work against you. Freight is not the best right now. Freight is up and down. Freight goes by certain states, certain regions. Obviously, the Midwest and the West have good freight coming into the Northeast, but coming out of the Northeast is not that good all the time. I've traveled the whole country. I've been from Maine and Boston all the way across to Los Angeles and Sacramento. I've done it 4 to 5 times already, coast to coast. And I will say that the middle part of the country, the Texas, the Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, things like that, once you get in there, you really will get good freight or good loads coming out of there. Now getting there sometimes is not as easy. That can be the trick. But if you're vigilant, you're on top of the load board, you really take it seriously, you have to be competitive. You got to be hungry. This is not meant for the person that's going to lay there and think it's going to come to them. Now, with the owner-operator thing, I believe that there's some very good dispatchers. I actually know one. She worked very well with me, and I really like her, However, as you grow, you have to kind of know how to do things by your own, Dispatching is good, but dispatching will make you lazy. I'm not knocking dispatchers. I'm just trying to say, when it's your own business, your own company, you should know how to look for things and do what you can, because everybody's got their hand in your pocket with this. There's a lot of things, and everybody's trying to get paid. And it's nothing against dispatchers. There actually are some very good dispatchers. I actually know one she's extremely good. But at the same time, you have to have the drive to go get it. You have to be able to want to, look for it and, cut expenses, cut costs. You want to be able to cut costs, because when you own company, it really comes, you can gross a whole lot, but what are you netting? The net is really what it comes down to, and the net can be really good depending on how hard you work. Sometimes circumstances where there's nothing you can do, and sometimes you're going to take a loss. So you can start the beginning of the week really good, but the next load in the week may not be that good. But that second load may get you to a third load that's actually pretty good. So you got to know, pick and choose your battles the best way you can. And that's where it comes down to a certain strategy that you got to have. You got to know your time, Now, if you run from, let's just say, Boston all the way to California, that's about 3,100 miles. Now, 11 hours is basically as far as most you can do on the clock. Within those 11 hours, you need to average at least 700 miles in a day. Because you want to be able to get, 7 times 4 days is 2,800. So you figure 700 miles times 4 days. That'll be 2,800 miles. So within that 5th day, you got to know your first delivery will be in, let's just say, Los Angeles. You're coming from Boston. You have 4 days to get, 5 days to get there. You have to push across. You got to be able to, time management wise, you have to, be on top of your clock and know your schedule, know where you're going, know where you're parking. First thing the night before, you should be trip planning where you're going to park, where you're going to be, where you're going to go from there, how many miles is it. Then on top of that, you have to trip plan the fuel. Is the fuel cheap where I'm parking? Do I have to stop and get fuel before I park? These are all things a part of the anticipation part of trucking that the owner-operator part is very complex, and you have to know it. Now, don't get me wrong, it sounds like a lot, maybe how I'm explaining it or how maybe other people may explain it to you. But once you get into a flow, as far as how the system works, it really is not that hard, and it can be done. So, in conclusion, I feel it's for the right individual. I would never, recommend this to somebody who didn't know, time management, didn't know their finances, didn't understand how to save money, didn't understand how to, that if they like to shop and they always want to be home, this isn't really for them. There's a lot of things that, they have to ask themselves before they're getting into this, and you have to deal with a lot of different expenses that can add up, especially if you like me, if you have a trailer, you have to have trailer insurance, you might have a trailer payment, your truck payment, you have, all types of stuff. You got to deal with IFTA, IRP, you have to pay your taxes, you have to pay your fuel tax, endless amount of stuff you got to deal with. Tolls, oh my God, tolls. Tolls can add up real quick. Easy Pass just basically will, oh my goodness, pre-pass, it's crazy how pre-pass really can, really hit you. So overall, I love it though, man. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. But I live and die it. I'm the real deal. When they talk about guys that run and do the damn thing, that's guys like me. They know what time it is. Certain people kind of out here know already, who I am, and the guys that really run hard, I know who they are. We kind of it's like a secret society. We know the guys that are going to get it, and I'm just glad I'm one of them. So overall, I wish everybody could do it and understand the joy of it, but it's not for everybody. If it was for everybody would be doing it. Now, people that want to own trucks and get into it and get their authority but don't want to drive the truck. Now, depending on what kind of money you have, that can be another lucrative thing. If you have a lot of money, you want to get a bunch of trucks and stuff like that, that can be, very lucrative too. However, you're going to understand with trucking that trying to keep drivers right now is the hardest thing. These drivers it's very competitive to get a driver right now. So it's almost like harder for the companies to keep a driver. So the company driver even though the company driver goes through its own headache with a company, companies go through a headache with company drivers because, they're like, oh, I got to go home, oh, my child, or my, my significant other, stuff like that. And then they have to go home, and then now you have this freight that's picked up, and, once the truck isn't running and you're a smaller fleet, then you're losing money. So you got to know your drivers in a smaller fleet. Now, the big fleets can, they can move and get rid of drivers in and out. I'm just talking about the guys, small companies like myself, that, or guys that have 3 to 4 trucks. They got to really know their drivers. They got to take care of the drivers. They got to really work with them, get to know them, understand their issues, what they like to do. It's very important going into the owner level of it as far as a fleet, like as far as a fleet goes. So, it's a lot to it. I love it, and you have to have so hard work and being consistent is everything. Also, the divisions in trucking can really make the pay go up or down depending on your area too. Low boy, flatbed, it's a big money. They do very well. But it's a lot more work. You have to be out there in the storm, strapping stuff down, and a lot more responsibility with that. And it definitely pays very well. I do reefer. The headache with reefer is that you have to always baby the reefer. You have to make sure that that thing is on. You gotta make sure your oil is changed in your reefer. You have to protect it. It's a lot with reefer at times, but at the same time, it's I love it. And also reefer requires a certain amount of patience as well. especially in owner operating, because you have to be patient with, you know, the unload and the load, and sometimes it's just unfair how we can be treated out here sometimes in that aspect. But if you are mentally prepared for it, you won't let it break you. You know what I mean? I do things like, you know, I go take a walk or do something else, you know, watch some TV, chill, the game. I have other options, so I know how to get around those long time frames and being patient. Also, you know, with the owner-operator thing too, with the responsibility of it too, you can't be wilding out. You can't be like speeding, going crazy. I mean, I drive fast when I have to. Don't get me wrong, but I'm strategic on how I do it. You have to know when you got these knuckleheads that are driving crazy and jumping in front of you. You gotta let them go. You can't be on this road rage tip of like, oh man, who the hell he think he is, and start trying to do the shoving match. Because remember, when you have a company and you have your own truck, your own business, it's a different level of responsibility. And that goes back to the mindset of the whole thing. Can you do that? You know, some people don't have the mindset. It's so much more responsibility driving these trucks, because anything go wrong, it's on you, and everybody's coming after you. You also have to deal with the disrespect of the road. Some of these people like to cut you off, honking, impatient. Everybody's life is more important than yours at the moment. They're going crazy, and you got to know how to get around that. That's part of the complexity of the owner-operator level of it, because you have to stay calm through most of it and not let it, you know, just choose your battles, you know, the right way. I mean, don't get me wrong, when disrespect comes, you handle disrespect with you know, with more disrespect. Sometimes you have to, but for the most part, you have to be smart about how you go about things. And, you know, overall, I love it. Like I said earlier, you have to have a passion for this. And I believe once you get into it, it's really good. And honestly, one thing I've noticed across the board with not just men, but now I'm seeing even women out here. There's a lot of women truckers and women out here doing the damn thing. When I tell you, I was like, what the hell? She's driving. I'm looking, like, what? You know, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, hold on. And a lot of times it's like, when you think of the manly jobs, and not to be chauvinist and stuff like that, but I'm not trying to be, but certain jobs that you're accustomed to men doing, when you see the women doing, just really, I really credit these women, because it's amazing what I see out here sometimes. They're tough. These women out here are tough. They are driving. There's some tougher women out here than guys. I mean, yo, it's crazy. So overall, you got to have a passion for it, and you got to be mentally tough. I think that's the main thing. Anyway, thanks for listening. I have to go get to my load. You know, it's time to get out of here. They gave me a signal. Thanks, y'all. Y'all be good. Enjoy your day.